Hey everybody, and welcome back to War Games News Radio for another installment of Better Know a Faction, a series where I break down the different special rules and tactics for factions and units in Fallout Wasteland Warfare. In this episode, we are going right back to the beginning where it all started out for War Games News Radio and taking an updated look at the first faction I ever covered here on the channel, and it just so happens to be my favorite faction, and that's the Survivors. The Survivors are one of the most diverse and versatile factions in the entire game, and they include everything from Vault Dwellers, Minutemen, Mojave Companions, robots, super mutants, and of course the goodest boy of them all, Dogmeat. With so many units drawing from multiple Fallout video games, I've decided to break the Survivors into two groups and two separate videos. So this first video is a doozy, and I'm going to be covering all of the Survivor units that you can find in the two-player starter set all the way up to Wave 5. And then in the next Survivors video, I'm going to be taking a look at the New Vegas expansion. But before we go breaking down all of the different units and their stats, and there are a lot of them, let's take a look at the Survivors faction special rule. When building a force with a Survivor as your leader, any unique units, which are units that have the Vault Boy icon on the top of their card, start a game of Fallout Wasteland Warfare with one single strong armor token free of charge. Now, this special rule has seen some changes over the years, and when the game was first released, unique Survivors started off any scenario with 2 strong armor tokens, while non-unique units started off with 1. But this faction special rule has been updated, so now only uniques get a bonus in the form of that single strong armor token, and non-unique units, well, they get a whole lot of nothing. Armor boost tokens can be a little complicated to wrap your head around at first, so let's just take a second and go over how these tokens work when applied to a unit. Now, each armor boost token that a model has adds 1 strong armor to the model's armor rating, which is shown on the model's card. Each time a model with an armor boost token is hit by an attack, then 1 armor boost token is discarded after the attack is resolved, and that's regardless of whether or not there is damage caused. I like to think of armor boost tokens as kind of like a miniature temporary set of power armor. It gives you a +1 strong armor bonus just like a set of power armor, but unlike power armor, these tokens are discarded the second you take any damage or any hit, no matter what, even if no damage was caused. This faction special rule can really increase the survivability of your Survivor forces, so just keep in mind that when you do form a Survivor faction list, if you have a Survivor model as your leader, all of your unique units are going to get 1 of these strong armor tokens at the beginning of the game. Now that we've got the faction special rule out of the way, let's take a look at all of the different units in the Survivors faction from Wave 1 all the way up to Wave 5 and all of the different strengths and weaknesses. First up is the generic Settler. These units are dirt cheap at 40 caps, and despite their low cost, Settlers are actually a half-decent combat unit, hitting with pistols and rifles with a perception of 6. But that's pretty much where the good news ends with these units, as they're very squishy with just 4 hit points and 1 physical and energy armor. They're subpar by far when it comes to close combat, hitting in melee with a very low strength of 3, and they make for just okay objective runners, hacking on an intelligence of 4 and searching on that perception of 6, but they lack any lockpicking abilities, so there are better options out there which we'll go over in just a minute. Now, they can't use any thrown weapons, but despite all of these shortcomings, for a bog standard entry-level unit, they're more than capable when it comes to providing some fire support downrange, especially when using a rifle that grants green accuracy die like the hunting rifle. Next up, we have the Scavenger, which is similar to their Survivor counterpart, but they're a much more objective-focused unit. Scavengers are lacking in the combat department, hitting in melee with a strength of 4, and they're even worse shooters, hitting on a perception of 3. But they both lockpick and search on an intelligence of 7, making them one of the handier objective runners in this faction, considering their caps cost of 42 points. Their computer skills are the exception to this, as they leave something to be desired, as they hack on a very low luck stat of just 2. They're actually fairly decent with thrown weapons, hitting on 5s with a range of blue, and they're a bit beefier compared to the Settler with 5 hit points, 2 physical, and 1 energy armor. Now last up for what I call the basic units in this faction is the free tech, and this is an absolutely clutch objective runner, hacking and searching on a wickedly high intelligence of 8 and lockpicking on an agility of 5. They also have a move and charge range of red, meaning they can get along the battlefield much faster compared to other units in this faction. Now they can't be locked out of any terminals, so no dramas there if you roll a critical fail while hacking, and their backup special rule lets them add 1 black die when making a quick action use expertise test when they have a friendly model within their presence range of red. They are rather fragile with just 4 hit points, 2 physical and 1 energy armor, and combat is definitely not their strong suit, hitting on 3s with both melee and ranged weapons, and like the Settler, they lack any ability to use thrown weapons. But they're very affordable at just 35 caps, so you've got some points room to give them some extra gear if you want to increase their survivability. A set of combat armor or even sturdy metal armor will up their resistance stats, and the Life Giver perk doesn't hurt either for an extra hit point in a pinch. Now, it's worth noting at this point that most units in this faction don't have any form of natural radiation resistance, so keep that in mind if you're running around any battlefields with a high number of radiation barrels. And this might come into play a little bit more down the line as the Children of Atom will be coming to the game as a faction in April of 2022. Now, if you haven't checked out my review of the upcoming Commonwealth Wave for Fallout Wasteland Warfare, give yourself a second and check out this review popping up here for the lowdown on the Children of Atom, the Railroad, the Gunners, and lots more creepy crawlies. But let's get back to the matter at hand and take a look at another batch of Survivor units, this time the Vault Dwellers, which are actually a sub-faction of the Survivors and one of the very few sub-factions in the entire game. There are only 2 units in this sub-faction, the Vault Dweller and the Vault Tech Security Officer. Despite not actually having the Survivor keyword on their card, the Vault Dweller units can be included on a Survivor's battle mode list. But because neither of the units have that Survivor keyword and neither of them are unique models, they can't benefit from the Survivor special rule. Now, the Vault Dweller unit is the cheapest one that you can get your hands on as a Survivor player, coming in at just 34 caps. They're a slightly better objective runner compared to the Scavenger, hacking and lockpicking on an intelligence of 6 and searching on a perception of 3. They also have access to use expertise quick actions, meaning they can spend action points on their turn to make a search, hack, or lockpick test with a -2 penalty to the roll. Now this can come in handy when paired with perks like Action Boy or Impatient, or if you have any units in your force that can dish out quick actions to other friendly units. Now, this is unfortunately where the good news ends with the Vault Dweller unit, as their combat skills are less than impressive. They can't use any rifles, and they hit with pistols on a very low perception of 3, and their melee skills aren't much better, hitting on an agility of 4. They're also relatively squishy, with just 4 hit points, 1 physical, and 1 energy armor. Changing gears to the Vault Tech Security Officer, you have a much more robust unit with 5 hit points, 2 physical, and 1 energy armor, and they're better in combat compared to the Dweller, hitting on 4s with ranged weapons and also in melee. But because of their baton special ability, that melee skill of 4 actually gets jacked up to a 6 when using a baton, which happens to also give you 2 green accuracy die when making attacks. This means you have a pretty consistent chance to hit what you're swinging at when using the baton, which is also relatively cheap at just 10 caps as of the filming of this video. Not surprisingly, their objective skills take a hit compared to the Dweller, searching on a 4 and hacking on just a 2, but because of their Vault Protector special rule, they can become immune to Battle Cry when within blue presence range of any other unit with the Vault Dweller keyword on its card. Now this comes in handy when dealing with super mutants or creatures or any of the other few units that can battle cry, and this is really the only Vault Dweller sub-faction special rule to speak of. Now that might change in future waves if more Vault Dweller units get added to the faction, but that might just be wishful thinking on my part. Now before we move on to the unique units in this faction, let's take a look at the other Survivor sub-faction, and that's the Minutemen. There are 3 units in the Minutemen sub-faction. That's the Standard Minutemen, Ronnie Shaw, and Mr. Another Settlement Needs Your Help himself, Preston Garvey. Now these units tend to work best when paired together, but they can still make for decent fighters when part of any Survivors list on their own. Ronnie and Preston actually count as both parts of the Survivors and the Minutemen faction, and because they are unique, they will get that +1 strong armor boost token when part of any Survivors list. Now, the standard Minuteman isn't technically part of the Survivor roster, but just like the Vault Dwellers, they can be added to a battle mode Survivor list no problem. The standard Minuteman isn't actually half bad in a fight all by themselves, hitting on a perception of 5 with pistols and rifles, and a strength of 4 with melee weapons. But these units are best used in pairs to take advantage of their trained and coordination special rules. When you have 2 Minuteman units, which are within red presence range of each other, you can ready both of them in the same turn for a double activation, and they also get a +2 to their rifle attack actions. Equipping them with the signature laser musket brings the cost of 2 Minutemen units to around 142 caps, which isn't a bad price for 2 combat units that get a 2-for-1 activation, hit on 7s with rifles, and have 4 hit points with 2 physical and 1 energy armor. But when you throw Ronnie and Preston into the mix, these units get even more buffs. Ronnie Shaw is a bit pricey, caps-wise, but she is one of the more underrated combat units in the game as far as I'm concerned. She hits with almost all weapons on a perception and agility of 7, including thrown weapons with a range of green. Big guns are the exception here, as she hits on a strength of just 3. Because of her Tactician special rule, she doesn't count towards model numbers when calculating advantage at the start of any battle round, and her Sharpshooter buff lets any and all friendly models within her blue presence range ignore 1 piece of cover when making a ranged weapon attack, so long as she's not engaged with an enemy in a close combat. Now, this is crazy useful when putting her near any standard Minuteman units, as they become even more deadly with their laser muskets and attacking units in cover. Her unarmed ability lets Ronnie add a black and a blue die when making an improvised weapon attack, and if she rolls a nuke on that blue die, she breaks an opponent's arm. She's immune to battle cry, and she can hold her own with 6 hit points, 2 physical, and 3 energy armor. Moving on to Preston Garvey, his morale special rule gives all Minutemen units in black presence range +1 hit point, and all friendly units in his range, whether they're Minutemen or not, can use his battle cry resist of 7. He is a crack shot with the laser musket because of his specialty, bringing his chance to hit up to 8 from a perception of 6, but he also gets the long barrel attachment for the musket for free, which adds 1 color length to both short and long range attacks. Preston also always shoots his intended target when shooting into melee, which is crazy useful against swarm factions like Raiders, Creatures, or even Caesar's Legion. He's not half bad with melee weapons or big guns, hitting on a strength of 5, and he can battle cry on a charisma of 7 with an orange pushback. His thrown weapon range is actually pretty great at blue, but he only makes a direct hit when chucking on an agility of 4. He's also a tough customer with 7 hit points, 3 physical and energy armor, and a natural radiation resistance of 1. If all that weren't enough, he also has access to luck points with a base stat of 4, which allows him to modify skill tests by +2 or -2, or add 1 or remove 1 damage from attacks on a successful luck roll. For more on what luck points can and can't be used for, check out page 52 in the core rulebook. While Preston is a combat-focused unit, in my opinion, he actually makes her a decent objective runner in a pinch, hacking and lockpicking on an intelligence of 5 and searching on a perception of 6. Now that we've got all of the basic and sub-faction units out of the way, let's take a look at all of the unique units in this Survivors faction, which are mostly companions that you can find in the Commonwealth in Fallout 4. Kate is one of my favorite Commonwealth companions in Wasteland Warfare. She is one of the few melee-focused Survivor units and hits in close combat with an agility of 7. She's not half bad with ranged weapons either, hitting on a perception of 5. Now, Kate has no thrown weapons skill, but she makes up for this by being an astoundingly good lockpicking unit with that agility of 7. She also gives a +2 to lockpick to any unit within her green presence range because of her locksmith aura ability. Now, aura abilities also apply to the units that generate the ability unless it's specifically stated on the card, so Kate actually lockpicks on a 9 because of the special rule. Now, her other objective skills are just okay, searching on a 5 and hacking on a 4, but her chem knowledge special rule gives her 1 free use of any equipped chem that she has, letting you essentially double the number of turns in which she can benefit from chem bonuses. And because of her habit special rule, she's basically always going to have at least one equipped chem active at any given time. She's a robust one with 7 hit points, 3 physical, and 1 energy armor, and these stats can get boosts depending on which chems you decide to take with Kate. Now her AI card lists Mentats as her starting equipment along with a double barrel shotgun, but I'd be more inclined to give Kate a dose of Comex to maximize her combat skills and bring along a melee weapon like a board or ballistic fist on top of that shotgun. Piper is one unit that I feel doesn't quite get enough credit in the Survivor faction. She scores on all 3 objective skills with a decent intelligence of 6, and while she's more of a utility character than a combat unit, Piper still hits with ranged weapons on 5s. Melee is not her strong suit, hitting on a strength of 3, but she's actually not bad with thrown weapons with a green range and an agility of 6. Now because of her Newshound special rule, that intelligence of 6 actually gets jacked up to an 8 when making search tests, but it's her distracting special rule that really makes her shine in my opinion. Once per activation, Piper gets to dish out a -2 token to one opposing model within her green presence range. But if she's engaged, the unit that gets that distraction marker must be a unit that she's engaged with. Piper's alright in the survivability department with 6 hit points and 2 physical and 2 energy armor, and if it were me, I'd pair her up with a melee unit that can tie up charging enemies so Piper can stay unengaged and dish out pistol shots and distraction tokens to opposing models. Now, Mama Murphy is one of the weirder units in Fallout Wasteland Warfare. When it comes to combat, I'm tempted to say don't even bother, as she hits on just 3s with both melee weapons and pistols, and she isn't an effective charger with both a move and charge range of just yellow. She's surprisingly half decent with thrown weapons though, hitting on 7s with a range of green. Objective-wise, she's kind of mediocre, hacking and searching on an intelligence of 5. She has a surprisingly high hit point value though, of 7, with 2 physical and 1 energy armor, and for some odd reason, she's immune to battle cry and has access to move and charge quick actions. But it's her foresight ability that makes her just an absolutely bonkers support unit. Just like her character in Fallout 4, Mama Murphy can be used to get a glimpse of things to come in your Wasteland Warfare battles. During the battle setup phase, Mama Murphy gets 3 foresight points that she can spend before the battle begins. She can spend 2 of these points to allow your survivor force to set up after your opponent, and 1 point to look at 3 of your opponent's random boost cards, or 1 point to look at 2 investigation and or searchable tokens after setup is complete. And once the game starts, she has even more foresight options. At the beginning of each of her activations, she gets 2 foresight points, or 4 points if she has an active chem. And because she gets 2 free chems at the start of any game, odds are you're going to be getting the max amount of foresight points every round. Now she can spend these points out of sequence before or after any model on the board takes an action. For 1 point each, Mama Murphy can either look at the top card of an event deck, change a reaction by any friendly model so it is resolved at the start of a trigger, not the end of a trigger, and she can take back any critical fail result of an X when a friendly model makes a skill test. The friendly model can then perform any other action as long as it's not the same action that they failed on. These abilities are just bananas, but honestly, I rarely, if ever, see Mama Murphy taken on a survivor's list. So if you're a fan of this unit and you have a really cool list that includes Mama Murphy, let me know in the description down below because I'd love to hear about it. If you're looking for a good all-around unique survivor unit that's good for both combat and objective skills, Sturgis is going to get my vote. With 8 intelligence for all objective skills, he's arguably the best objective runner in the entire faction. And his Handyman aura ability gives all friendly units and himself a +2 to lockpicking when in his presence range, meaning he'll only ever fail a lockpick test when rolling an X on the skill die. His combat skills are actually pretty good, hitting on a strength of 6 with melee weapons, and he's a decent range shooter with a perception of 4, which actually gets bumped up to a 6 when he uses the 44 revolver because of his specialty. Thrown weapons are his biggest combat downfall, hitting on just 4s due to his lower agility, but he's one tough customer with 7 hit points and 2 physical and energy resistance. He's also a great utility unit because of his modder special ability, which allows you to draw 3 mods at the start of a game and keep 2, attaching them to any friendly unit's unmodded weapons. Next up, let's take a look at 3 very different oddball units, which can all be found in the Unusual Allies box set: Hancock, Strong, and Nick Valentine. Hancock is an interesting unit that blends utility and combat skills. He's pretty decent when it comes to a fight with almost all types of weapons, hitting on 5s with pistols and rifles, and hitting on 4s with melee weapons and big guns. He has a good blend of objective skills, searching, lockpicking, and hacking on a 7, 5, and 3, respectively. But it's his special rules and aura abilities that make him a really appealing unit in my book. His encouraging aura gives other friendly models access to the move and charge quick action, and his sociable aura adds an extra green die to stranger tests for himself and any friendly in his presence range. His On 3 ability is a useful buff for both combat and objective units, as any model activated after Hancock in the same turn gets a +2 on their first skill roll during that activation. All 3 of these abilities are auras, so units need to be within his presence range of red to take advantage of the bonuses. Now keep in mind he's not the toughest companion out there, with 6 hit points, 1 physical, and 2 energy armor, but he is a ghoul, so he's immune to radiation, which can be useful in the right situations. Next up is Strong, which is actually one of my favorite companions in the game. Well, technically not a survivor, can be included on a survivor battle mode list, and even though he is unique, he doesn't benefit from that faction special rule. He is one beefy boy with 8 hit points, 2 physical, and 1 energy armor, and because he's a super mutant, he's immune to all radiation damage. His strength of 7 means he's an above average melee bruiser and gains an extra black die for the +7 strength bonus. Strong can battle cry with a pushback of orange, and he has a longer than average charge range of green, meaning he can get into the fray faster than most other survivor units. Now, he's not the best with ranged weapons, hitting on a perception of 4 with rifles and big guns, and he lacks the ability to make any pistol attacks. But he's a decent chucker with thrown weapons, hitting on an agility of 5 with a long range of blue. Strong also has access to melee quick actions, and his precise aura ability lets him or any friendly in his green presence range swap out a green accuracy die for a yellow armor break die when making outnumbered close combat attacks, which can be handy when tackling a heavily armored opponent, but a green die is still probably more useful in general when trying to secure a hit in an outnumbered fistfight. Then we have Nick Valentine, everyone's favorite hard-boiled synth detective. Nick is a very useful utility character due to his high luck stat of 7 and his intuition aura ability, which lets any friendly units in his green presence range use his luck points. He can also use those luck points to redraw any danger, creature, or stranger cards, so Nick can really help pull the odds in your favor when making Wasteland deck draws. His combat skills are so-so, hitting on 4s with both melee weapons and pistols, but he's a better than average objective runner with access to use expertise quick actions, hacking on an 8, searching on a 7, and lockpicking on a 4. And because he has a movement and charge distance of red, he can shuffle across the battlefield quicker than your average survivor. He's resistant to battle cry, he's got the use of luck, and his investigate ability grants access to use expertise quick actions to any friendlies in his aura range. He's immune to rad damage due to his synth construction, and he's pretty tough with 6 hit points and 3 physical and 1 energy armor. On the mechanical side of things, we have Codsworth, the bumbling yet loyal Mr. Handy. Now, Codsworth is one of my all-time favorites. He comes equipped with a Mr. Handy buzzsaw and a flamer, and he's not half bad with either of them, hitting on an agility of 6. The flamer is my go-to weapon when using Codsworth or any Mr. Handy because it deals area effect damage and it has a ton of special effects. Codsworth also hits with thrown weapons on this agility stat of 6 and has a range of green, so he's not too shabby when it comes to these types of attacks either. He's got a great movement range of red and a better charge range of green, making him one of the faster survivor units out there. He's also pretty durable with 6 hit points, 3 physical armor, 1 energy armor, and again, he's immune to radiation. He's also a great objective runner, searching on a perception of 8 and hacking on an intelligence of 7. He's immune to battle cry, and while he can't climb, he does hover around the battlefield, ignoring difficult terrain. Codsworth is better than your average Mr. Handy, but costs 20 caps more with his +1 stat boosts to both perception and agility compared to the base model, and he can act as a medic of sorts because of his purified water ability, which lets him remove 1 hit point of damage from a friendly unit within yellow range via the sharing rules. Next up is Nuka Girl, who's another one of these units that I don't think gets quite enough credit in this faction. She's a bit pricey at 100 caps before adding equipment, but she has some impressive combat and utility objective skills. On the combat side of things, she's limited to using only pistols in ranged combat, but she hits on an impressive perception of 7. While her melee skills are lacking with only a strength of 3, she's exceptionally accurate when using thrown weapons because of her agility of 8 and a range of green. She's one of the more resilient survivor units out there with 8 hit points, and while her physical armor is fairly low at just 1, she has a whopping 3 energy armor and 2 radiation resistance. Her objective skills aren't bad, searching on that perception of 7 and hacking on an intelligence of 6, and because she has access to luck with a stat of 5 and can bank criticals, having her on the board can really swing the battle in your favor in a pinch. Her special abilities give her an extra edge, as she can be made ready for free when a friendly model within her blue presence range is made ready thanks to her alert ability, and her acrobatic special rule lets her ignore all damage from an incoming attack once per battle if she makes a successful agility test. Now here's a unit that I place squarely in the what the fuck category of companions, and that's Lorenzo Cabot. Well, technically not a survivor unit, Lorenzo can be included on a survivor battle mode list, and even though he is unique, he doesn't benefit from that faction special rule. He is wildly tough with 10 hit points, 2 physical and 2 energy armor, and he's exceptionally good at lockpicking and search tests with an intelligence of 9. He's subpar when it comes to hacking or shooting with a perception of 4, and while he isn't very accurate with melee weapons due to his agility of just 3, he does get an extra black die when making melee attacks because of his strength of 8. It's his special abilities that make him such a bizarrely unique unit. His telekinetic nudge is an interesting one, as it lets him push anything that scatters in his line of sight and within yellow up to orange in any direction, meaning he can tactically and telekinetically nudge an incoming grenade, thrown item, or missile out of harm's way. But the telekinetic shove is even more valuable in my opinion, as it lets him move a model orange in any direction once per activation by making a modified shoot action with a range of green. What makes this ability so interesting for me is that the way it's written, it can technically be used on both opposing and friendly models, allowing you to shove a friendly a little bit closer to an objective or away from an enemy, or push a charging enemy away from your forces. Now, one thing to note is that when using this against an enemy model, the opposing unit has a chance to negate the effect by making a successful strength attribute test. Last up for the companions is not just one goodest boy, but a trio of goodest boys, and those are the Dogmeat units. Now, as mentioned, there are 3 current Dogmeats in Fallout Wasteland Warfare, but technically there are 4 if you count the original first run version of his stat card, which was recently nerfed due to the fact that he was an unstoppable killing machine. But for the sake of this video, we're going to ignore the original version Dogmeat and just focus on the 3 current cards. Now, because of the rules around unique units, only one version of any Dogmeat can be included in any survivor force at any given time. For more info on unique units, check page 12 of the Wasteland Warfare rulebook. Now, when looking at these doggos, each one has slightly different stats, but all 3 are very useful when it comes to tying up enemies in close combat. First up, the standard Dogmeat has 6 hit points and both 2 energy and physical armor. His dog bite hits on an agility of 6, making him a pretty decent attacking unit, especially because he gets a green die when making that attack. Dogs can't climb, but they don't require line of sight to charge, which can be pretty handy when dealing with a really compacted battlefield. With access to moving charge quick actions, a move range of red, and a charge range of blue, Dogmeat can zoom across the battlefield and acts as an amazingly effective distraction or hunter-seeker unit. Dogmeat doesn't have any natural objective running skills to speak of, but he can gain access to search tests based on a high perception of 8, and that's when he's paired with his sole survivor unit, which we'll talk about in just a minute. Now, if you really want a doggo that can search, the Dogmeat Scout is going to be the unit for you. The Scout has the same hit points and armor as the standard Dogmeat and is nearly identical stats-wise, aside from one less strength point, which only really matters when making battlecry resist tests, which are few and far between depending on your opponent. But unlike the standard Dogmeat, the Scout can search without the help of the sole survivor or a dog handler perk based off their intelligence of 4. Now, the Scout can still benefit from those dog handler buffs in the same way as the standard Dogmeat card, but the Scout just has this natural search ability built in for an extra few caps. The Scout also has a couple extra abilities over the base model. The Observer special ability lets other friendly units use the Scout's line of sight for charges and when reacting to triggers, and the Leap ability lets the Scout climb, but they can't end their movement midway through a climb test. Last up for the dog pack is the heavily armored Dogmeat Guard Dog. Now, the Guard Dog is actually slightly less effective in combat, hitting on 5s instead of 6s when making attacks, and actually has 1 less hit point overall compared to the other Dogmeat versions. But he does have extra armor with 3 physical, 2 energy, and 1 radiation resistance. The Guard Dog loses access to quick action moves and charges, but gains the ability to bank criticals, which is pretty awesome considering the dog bite only requires 2 critical points to charge, and adds an extra black die to the already crazy Dogmeat dice salad when unleashing a crit. The Guard Dog isn't as fast as the other Dogmeat versions with a shortened charge distance of green, but this unit works better when sticking close to your high value units like heroes or objective runners due to the Lookout ability, and that lets the Guard Dog take the weapon damage suffered by a friendly model with an orange and line of sight prior to any armor rolls once between every activation. Now, we're almost at the end of this most extensive Better Know a Faction rundown to date, and we only have one group of units left to look at, and that is the Soul Survivors. There are actually 4 versions of the Soul Survivor card, and just like the Dogmeat variants, you can't use more than one version of a Soul Survivor in a Survivor Force list, with a couple exceptions, which we'll go over in just a second. For the caps, the standard Soul Survivor is my go-to unit in pretty much every Survivor Force. With 7 hit points, 3 physical, 3 energy, and 1 radiation resistance, they are a really tough unit right out of the gate. They have a good mix of objective skills, hacking and searching on 5s and lockpicking on 7s, and they have a more than decent mix of combat skills to boot. They hit on 7s with pistols, rifles, and thrown weapons with a decent range of green, and they hit on 5s with both melee weapons and big guns. As mentioned earlier, the Dog Handler perk gives any doggos in the Soul Survivors blue presence range the ability to make search tests based on the dog's perception. And if you decide to spend the extra 60 caps to make a Soul Survivor heroic, any dogs in that presence range are also heroic for their activation, essentially letting you make your Dogmeat heroic for free. Coming in at 107 caps as of the filming of this video, the standard Soul Survivor is an excellent value if you want a unit that's a consistent shooter with above average objective skills. Now, the Soul Survivor Day 1 is a slightly nerfed version of the standard Soul Survivor, with 1 less strength, 2 less perception, and 1 less agility. Their hit points also drop by 1, but other than those reduced stats, this unit is identical to the standard one, but just 22 caps cheaper. The Day 1 makes for a great cost-effective choice, but you get what you pay for. Now, if a melee brawler is more your speed of Soul Survivor, then the Soul Survivor Loner might be the unit for you. The strength and perception attributes of the Loner are swapped compared to the standard version, so this beefy boy hits on 7s with both melee weapons and big guns, and 5s with ranged weapons. That 7 strength also grants the Loner an extra black damage die when making melee attacks in close combat, making them even more deadly. The Loner is a decent objective runner in his own right, hacking and searching on 7s and lockpicking on 5s, and while he's slightly less accurate with thrown weapons compared to the standard Survivor with an agility of 5, he does have a better range with thrown weapons with a distance of blue instead of green. Now, the Loner has all the same dog handler buffs as the other Survivor versions, but he has a longer presence range of black instead of blue. In the hit point and armor department, the Loner is exactly the same compared to the standard Soul Survivor, but the Loner does get the Lone Wanderer perk for free, which brings all of his armor up by 1 when there are no friendly models other than dogs in the Loner's presence range of black. Now, that perk also grants the Loner 2 extra hit points and an extra yellow armor break die when shooting with pistols or rifles, but be mindful that these effects also wear off if there are any non-dog friendlies within his black presence range, so don't get caught with your pants down and suddenly have your hit points drop to 0 when a friendly moves into close range. Now, one thing to note is that the Loner's partner special rule lets you take him in a force that already has one other Soul Survivor version in it, so you can bypass the rules around taking multiple versions of the same unit. And last up for the Soul Survivors is the extra brainy Soul Survivor tech. Now this is your objective-focused survivor, hacking and searching on an intelligence of 8 and lockpicking on an agility of 6. Combat-wise, pistols are going to be your best bet with the tech, hitting on an agility of 6, while both rifles and melee weapons hit on 4s. Keep in mind that the tech can't use any thrown weapons or big guns, so grenades and missile launchers are going to be completely wasted on this unit. The tech has 6 base hit points like the Day 1 Survivor, but their armor values are 2 across the board, meaning they're more resilient to radiation but slightly more vulnerable to physical and energy damage. The tech is faster than your average Soul Survivor with a base movement and charge range of red, meaning they can get to hard to reach objectives or searchables more quickly. They have access to quick action use expertise tests, and because of the Tech Savvy perk, the tech can give models with no hacking ability within his blue presence range of red a base hacking score of 2. As with all the other Soul Survivor stat cards, the tech gets the Dog Handler perk for free, and the tech also gets the Partner perk just like the Loner does. Now this unit can get a little bit pricey when you add in the AI card equipment, which includes a set of XO1 advanced power armor, but you don't necessarily have to equip this unit with that armor, although I do, and man, I just absolutely love it. And there you have it, folks, the rundown on damn near every Survivor unit from waves 1 to 5. Man, thanks for sticking in, that was a long one. Keen-eyed Wastelanders might have noticed that the Sneaky Stealth Courser X688 did not appear on this Survivors faction list, but if you want to get the lowdown on everything this unit can do, why don't you take a second and go check out my Better Know a Faction Institute video, in which we cover all of the synths in all of their glory. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope this information will help you better put together your Survivor factions in games of Fallout Wasteland Warfare. Make sure you're subscribed to WGNR so you don't miss part 2 of our Better Know a Faction Survivors video, which will be coming out in just a few weeks when we're going to go back to the Mojave and round up all of the New Vegas companions. If you like what you see here on WGNR, hit the like button and let me know in the comments what you thought about this video. And if you really want to support our channel, then why don't you consider heading on over to our Patreon page. Over there, you can donate to the channel, which lets me make more videos more often. And you can also get some exclusive rewards, including double entry into future WGNR giveaways, become a named character in a future video or battle report, and you can even get access to exclusive polls where you can help me decide the content that you'll see here on WGNR going forward. If you want to take a look at what we're working on behind the scenes here at WGNR, then why don't you check out my Channel Update 2022 video popping up here, and you can get the goods on all of the content that's going to be coming your way in this new year. But thank you again so much for watching, and until we meet again, stay tuned. WGNR will be back.